What up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Square Circle Podcast. I am your host, Marie Shadows, and on this episode, if you're watching it live on twitch.tv/ Marie underscore Shadows, thank you so much for doing that. And as always, you can find the audio version of this over at anchor.fm/ Square Circle Podcast. And as you know, for anyone that's listening to this on audio, I will try my best to explain everything to you of all the visuals that you're not seeing. If by any chance you guys ever want to check out a live Twitch chat, by all means head over to twitch.tv/ Marie underscore Shadows, where our chat here is very active, and they love giving their opinions as well as listening to my opinions. On this episode, we are going to be going over the following. We're going to be going over the AEW Dynamite show that happened last night. There's only a couple of details in here that I want to go over. I'm not going to go over the whole entire thing, but I want to make sure that AEW and AEW fans understand that I want AEW to succeed, and I want them to understand that we want story, we want things that make sense. And this is me just breaking down some of the stuff, especially interacting with certain AEW fans, which in my opinion, can get a little bit annoying, and you automatically know that they made up their mind and they're not going to listen to any type of different perspective. Not necessarily saying you guys out there have to be like, hey, um, you either listen to me or you don't. We're not saying that, or I'm not saying that at least. All I'm saying is that, like, if I want to create a conversation with you about a particular type of story and see where our minds can take us in an active conversation with, like, what, 280 characters, it's just to gain perspective. It's not to be like, oh well, you're 100% right, so why not. We're gonna dive right into AEW Dynamite, and then from there we're gonna just continue to talk about wrestling. We'll talk about the Owen Hart tournament, which I still believe that it's basically a money grab. That's right. I said it. I basically believe that it's a money grab, and I believe that they're using the name just to have, something special without it being special. It doesn't feel like, it's front and center. It doesn't feel like um it's a big deal when it's supposed to be a big deal, when it's sort of like dubbed that it's a big deal. But we'll get more into that in a little bit, and then after that we'll talk about the fact that AEW sold out the United Center, um which is basically going to be the home for the Forbidden Door pay-per-view coming up on June 26th. I have my one burning question, which is, um, you know, that's great that they sold out for the Forbidden Door, but how big of the chunk is it that it's for scalpers that bought it? I did see some, like, legit fans post up their screenshots of them buying the tickets, and stuff like that. But then there's other people that would wait in the queues and then buy it and then go resell it for way more money than what it is. And so even though they sold out technically, um my one burning question is, how big of a chunk is that, from scalpers' point of view? Um, we don't really have much New Japan stuff to really go over. Right now they're just having, like, some anniversary matches and shows and stuff, so they're doing that. Um, we are on our way to Best of the Super Juniors, which starts May 15th. And then after that, we have Dominion next month. And then after that, we have um, the G1. So we have a lot of wrestling lined up and a lot of stuff to talk about. But, let's talk about, AEW. AEW is starting to lose its momentum. AEW fans may not see it, They may not want to believe it, but they are losing momentum in the fact of how the cards are being booked, how everything is happening. Um, you know, Yesterday wasn't really strong. Um, it really wasn't. So let's start with the first topic of MJF versus Wardlow. Let's talk about MJF versus Wardlow. So, after MJF got done feuding with CM Punk, we automatically went into MJF versus Wardlow because Wardlow was sick and tired of having a contract specifically with MJF. MJF owned Wardlow. And so Wardlow, is, I guess, was uh, the bodyguard to MJF. Uh, Basically, like, did all of his bidding. Um, and for a while, he was like, I can't really do this at all. So um, now we're here where Wardlow wants to get out of MJF and the contract, and this is why we have this feud, which makes perfect sense. I'm like, all right, cool, we got a story. Wardlow wants out of his contract. However, it's almost the same type of chase that has been happening between, oh, had happened between MJF and Jericho, where Jericho had to go through like the stages of pain type of thing, where he's like fighting different people every week in order to get to MJF. So right now we're in that boat where Wardlow is doing the same thing. Of course, AEW fans are not going to want to believe that. They'll probably fight tooth and nail um, about it with me, and then don't even give any type of, like, maybe they're doing it because of this. Maybe they're doing it because of that. But it's the same chase where MJF doesn't want anything to do with Wardlow. MJF wants to be protected and cower behind the people that he chooses to go after Wardlow. And I understand that Wardlow is a very big baby face. He's definitely good at being a baby face. That's a plus. However, why would anybody who's looking to get out of their contract and who's had enough of MJF like really controlling them be so obedient in order to play by MJF rules in order to get out of this contract? Sure, some can definitely say that, during the feud with MJF and CM Punk, Wardlow gave CM Punk the Dynamite ring for CM Punk to use and stuff like that. You guys might end up saying those little tidbits are Wardlow rebelling against MJF, but that's not enough. That's not enough to really showcase the deep layers that this story can definitely go. Those are just little instances just because it was a coincidence that it happened and that it led to that. Um so yeah, I just don't understand like why a big guy like him would want to be so obedient to MJF, why he allows, to get the handcuffs and have security, even though he's been taking them out every chance that he gets, and he comes out with no music. And then my other problem with this storyline is that Wardlow is winning every single match that has been put in front of him. And my question is, when the payoff happens, are you going to be satisfied with the outcome? Because most likely they may end up having Wardlow win against MJF, and maybe this sets up for like Wardlow versus CM Punk, because most likely they're going to give the belt to CM Punk. Um, you know, or it sets up Wardlow versus Hangman. Imagine that. Um, because I don't know if MJF is going to win this match against Wardlow. Because if MJF does win this match against Wardlow, basically, everything that Wardlow has ever done to try to get out of his contract will be for nothing. So this is where I pose the question of, what if we got a storyline that's similar to back in the Attitude Era, where it was Steve Austin versus Mr. McMahon, and we had a little bit of, I guess, similarities in the MJF and Wardlow feud. Imagine if we got an Austin McMahon type of match between MJF and Wardlow. And, you know, um, that would be a pretty interesting thing, because I don't remember Steve Austin always winning like Wardlow always winning. There were some days that there are some days that Austin would win. There were some days that Austin would lose. There are some days that it would just be a a draw. And then it's also the same thing with Vince. Like, there was no clear cut of Austin always winning or Vince always winning. And the moment that uh Austin would get his hands on Vince McMahon is the moment that we all cheered. And we cheered for that storyline because we were basically like, I want to do that to my boss, right? Back in the 90s, we all lived vicariously through Austin because, Vince was the maniac. He abused his power when he was in character. And, who wouldn't want to, fuck up their boss? So we live vicariously through Austin to, imagine that, to feel that satisfaction of that, the boss getting his ass beat. And so, why can't we have something similar with Wardlow versus MJF? Why does it have to be the MJF show? Why does it have to be the chase that MJF wants? It's not technically very manipulative, because um, MJF has done nothing to be very manipulative of Wardlow. It hasn't gotten personal. If anything, if he really wanted to teach Wardlow a lesson in, you don't mess with MJF, you don't take matches or I guess stories that is gonna come bite you in the ass, because at this stage, MJF is in control, right? So if he really wanted to teach Wardlow a lesson about don't come after him, um, because the same way that he has the contract with Wardlow is the same way that, like, he could probably put him out of wrestling and be blacklisted. All these kind of story stuff that we could have went with it. Um, we could have got that. We could have got that where it could have been personal, where it could have been a little bit more deeper into their story. But after Wardlow decided to cut that huge babyface promo, which I think exposed a lot, um, which really didn't need to be said. I'm a firm believer that in the business of wrestling, you shouldn't always reveal your spouse or the person that, like, you're dating or whatever. Unless, like, you guys are two wrestlers, then maybe. But, like, you know, the personal lives, like, keep that to yourself, because sometimes the wrestling community can get, very dangerous and toxic and stupid. So, protect yourself, protect your family at all times. But hey, what up, Jersey Devil? What's the Chewbacca defense? Have I? This does not make sense. I I've heard of the Chewbacca defense. I don't know if I was using it. Was I using it? Let me know if I was using it. Um, but yeah. Uh, so like I was saying, that I think the promo that Wardlow did when he's like the first person to like turn babyface kind of exposed a lot. Um Afternoon, Jersey Devil. A South Park reference? Yeah, I remember. Okay, now I remember. I just don't know if I was using it in my, long-winded talk about Wardlow and MJF. But yeah, so after that, like Wardlow didn't really talk much for like promos. All he's been doing is like beating up guys. And what I'm getting to is that I want to talk about yesterday. So yesterday, Wardlow is fighting against Big Cass, who is William Morrissey over in Impact Wrestling, and you know what felt like to me, because I'm gonna be honest here, and people are probably gonna like shit on me, but it's totally okay. Um, I did not watch AEW yesterday, but I'm allowed to watch the highlights. I'm allowed to read the negatives and the positives on Twitter, and I can still make a very educated, informed guess as to what went on and how to fix it. Okay? Okay, Jersey Devil was totally right. Just AEW in general, shit doesn't make sense all too often. Totally 100% correct on that. That is why on this episode of the Square Circle podcast, we are going to be talking about those general decisions and like general shit that doesn't make sense and how to turn them to make sense. So, um like I said, I was going by highlights and I was going by the negative and the positive reactions of Twitter, and then got into it with this guy, which I'll explain in a little bit, about Warlow versus Morrissey. Morrissey did a wonderful Black Hole Slam. I'm going to say that. Wardlow did a wonderful moonsault, but bro, you got to work on your moonsaults. If you want to learn how to do a really good moonsault, you call up Jeff Cobb. Jeff Cobb knows how to do moonsaults. And then AEW decides to put up the video of Wardlow power bombing Morrissey and gets the 1, 2, 3. And I'm like, first of all, this is why myself and probably others have trust issues when it comes to AEW and their partnerships. Because for some reason, if you're not like an AEW star, if you're not a favorite, you end up losing in AEW when you step on their turf. Also, it has been noted that even though AEW wrestlers step on someone else's turf, AEW wrestlers go over when it makes no fucking sense for them to go over on someone else's turf. Like, anyway, my biggest problem with Wardlow um fighting Morrissey is not the fact that Morrissey showed up like, he showed up like a big deal. He came out like a big deal. Like he felt like, no matter where he goes, like he's a big deal. Um and he could do like so much more in the ring. They could have had them, go on for like a little bit longer. But my main issue is that Wardlow keeps winning. there is no sense of urgency. There is no sense of doubt. There is no sense of, is he going to win this time? Me as a fan, or a fan in general, for like all the general fans out there, if you're tuning into your favorite show on HBO and you know that one of the characters is going through an ordeal, and you connected with this character and you're like, man, I feel for this character. Don't you want to tune in every single week to be like, does the character win at whatever obstacle they're trying to face? Does the character lose at whatever obstacle they're trying to face? Does the character get any perspective into the, like, an insight into the obstacle that they're trying to get over? That's why you tune into a show. You tune into a show so you can be like, I am rooting for this character. This character doesn't always have to win, but the fact is that you connected with the character because there's a similarity between you and the character, and you're like, well, I've already gone through X, Y, and Z that the character on the TV show is going through, so I'm gonna be here to like support. And I understand. And then when the character wins, um, and then when the character wins, we all win, right? When it comes to Wardlow's case, every single match that MJF has put him against, he has won. There has never been a doubt of maybe this time he can't win. And so I had this conversation with this fan who automatically made up his mind about Wardlow versus MJF, for him to say that my idea is a horrible idea, because I was like, what if he loses? Wouldn't that be an interesting development? Wouldn't it have been an interesting development if somehow Wardlow lost to a wrestler who, like, can get the upset on Wardlow? That's going to stay in his mind, and that's going to creep in doubt. And there goes your manipulation. Everyone wants to say that MJF is the best, heel. He's the best person on the mic, but he's not doing any type of heel shit. He's not doing any type of cerebral shit where WWE will surely gladly give him the money that he wants when eventually his contract is up and they're going to take him. Like, there's nothing manipulative that he's doing. He's when I say he, MJF is playing it safe. And that's not what wrestlers should be doing, especially if they're heels. Um, I just think that when it comes to AEW and when it comes to MJF, they're always missing the mark to try to make MJF like one of the greats that we get to talk about, and he has such an early career. Like, bringing this back up again with, if Wardlow lost at any point during this um feud story, whatever you want to call it, and for MJF to capitalize on it, to play into Wardlow's fears, to play into Wardlow's like concerns, and probably tell him, you're always gonna be contracted to me. I don't know why you even tried. Like, you're not good at trying. You're just a big man, and you should stay a big man. That's your place in professional wrestling. Like, imagine if it was a psychological thing, and you as the fan, the viewer sitting at home, you're like, damn, that fucking hits me right in the chest, because sometimes, you might go to your 9 to 5 job that you fucking hate, and your boss might end up saying something in passing that's like similar to MJF, or like the treatment between MJF and Wardlow. So now you have an attachment to Wardlow and you want to see him win. But if you see him win all the time, the outcome of this story between MJF and Wardlow, is it going to be satisfying? Is it? I don't know if it's gonna be satisfying to you guys, but I know to me that it won't be satisfying. And this is why, like, trying to have a conversation about this on Twitter is not the best thing. Um, the other thing too is that when I was having the conversation with this person, on Twitter, that thinks he knows everything. He was saying that Morrissey is a free agent, and I'm like, well, no, he still wrestles on Impact. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then, like, I posed the same question to him. I'm like, wouldn't it be interesting if Wardlow lost, and obviously, he thought my idea was stupid, and he already made up his mind. So there's no point to have conversations with AEW fans that are like that, who doesn't want to try to have a deeper layer in these stories because it's falling flat. Like, what else can MJF do? Nothing much, really. All right, I'm gonna go back up and read the chat. Um, And obviously, ladies and gentlemen, if you are viewing this live right here on twitch.tv/Maria_shadows, by all means, if you do not agree with anything that I say, like, drop it in the chat. It's totally okay. I'm here to give my opinion. You could give your opinion. We'll talk about our opinions. And if we have to be like agree to disagree, that's totally okay too. Jersey Devil says, similar to the WWE WCW invasion, the home promotion can't make anyone outside look like a legitimate threat. Now, I would like to add to that. So, what I would like to add to that is, first of all, Jersey Devil is completely right. If you were part of watching that back in the day of the WCW and WWE like invasion type of angle, um, it'll be interesting if someone from Impact, came over and was a real threat and have, an AEW heart and soul wrestler go and try to defend the honor of AEW. Like, we don't have that shit anymore. The only place where we have it is like New Japan. And Okada being fucking cocky of like, yo, you can't have a Forbidden Door pay per view without Okada. Like, his words and shit like that. He doesn't care about Noah, but he knows about AEW and shit. Um, Jersey Devil also mentions, not to mention Wardlow has been hitting 3, 4, 5 power bombs to beat people, but just one power bomb is enough to beat a 7-foot guy like W Morrissey. I think, in all honesty, dude, if Wardlow was gonna hit like 3 or 4 power bombs on Morrissey, something in that man's body was gonna break. So he wouldn't need surgery. He would have been out. I think the one power bomb to Morrissey is enough, but it just felt like it was like 3 minutes tops. You know, plus entrances, and I don't know about that, man. But I totally get what you mean. Jersey Devil also says Wardlow should lose. Obviously not clean, but he should have a loss or two where he gets fucked or some sort of shenanigan. And again, I will pose the question of like, will that make you satisfied? Like, would you be invested if, I'm guessing, Jersey Devil, you mean when we get Wardlow versus MJF? And if you do mean that, this is for all the fans out there. Would you still be invested if um Wardlow lost to MJF when they have their match? Would you still be invested? That's all like I want to know, because it seems like AEW um because it seems like AEW fans like want it their way, and don't want to have a different perspective or a different outlook than like what they already have in mind. This is why I created a Square Circle podcast, so I can tell you guys a different perspective, and not necessarily be like, oh, well, mine is completely right. Like, wrestling is art. Wrestling is subjective, but like there are certain things where it's like it's cut and dry, and this is how like it should be. Versus like there's a lot of room for maneuverability, and especially when it comes to storylines and going with the right story, momentum, everything that you think of like your favorite TV show and why it's your favorite TV show. That should be in wrestling. It shouldn't necessarily just be like, oh, we have a story, you know it's gonna be like falling flat and shit like that. Um it shouldn't really be like that. The other thing too is that Jersey Devil, I don't know if you came in, I don't really know what part you came in, but I was saying that Wardlow versus MJF, like the whole entire storyline, should have like similarities between Steve Austin versus McMahon, only because like um it should have that urgency. Like I was talking about earlier, that like I even mentioned this earlier, that Steve Austin didn't win every single thing he did against Vince McMahon. And that us as fans, we live vicariously through Austin, so that way we could get the sense of satisfaction to beat up our boss and stuff like that. And I was saying that we should have something similar to like that in this storyline. Jersey Devil said, at this point, Wardlow had no real odds to overcome. Exactly. I'm going to read that again, and this is for the people in the back. According to Jersey Devil and myself, because I approve this first line, at this point, Wardlow had no real odds to overcome. Perfect. At least someone else can, reiterate the point. Wardlow wins and wins and wins, but is he really going to beat MJF the first go around? If he does, then what's the point? If he doesn't, then it's of course he lost. Yeah, and I'm gonna ask this question again. Are you gonna be satisfied and interested to continue following if Wardlow loses to MJF at Double or Nothing? And by the way, guys, ad starts in 1 minute. If you do not want your experience to be interrupted, send over those Twitch primes and or um, gift yourself a sub or the community some subs. Again, if you do not want your experience to be interrupted, I would gladly take a Twitch prime. Gotta stay hydrated. Okay, so um, I think I covered all the points about Wardlow versus MJF. Um, just because I don't think there's anything else for me to add on. There's no like new development and stuff like that. Um, give me a second. So yeah, let's see. Okay. Okay, so Jersey Devil also says, and this is coming from a lapsed fan who hasn't watched a full broadcast beginning to end of any promotion since around uh 2008 and 2009. And that's what makes myself and Jersey Devil, I guess a tiny bit unique, because we can definitely understand the end game, and we can definitely put two and two together. And it's just one of those things of like, you watched for X amount of years, you basically like know what's gonna happen. Um, AEW has been becoming predictable, so it's sort of like, what's the point, man? Like, you really do need somebody to think outside the box, to really sit these guys down and really say, hey, we can't have these type of matches. We can't have like this type of storyline. Like, is there an end game when we get to there? Like, AEW can't keep throwing shit at the wall. Like, that's what I really hate, is that they're throwing shit at the wall. um the other thing too is that let's talk about um all right, so the main thing that I really want to talk about was Wardlow and MJF. Let's move on to the Varsity Blondes calling out the House of Black. Man, I just can't anymore, man. I still what you know what? If I really think about it, I wasn't really like a huge fan of Aleister Black. I understand his hype. I understand that he has creativity. Not really, if I'm gonna be honest. Um, you know, Aleister Black does his creativity is more like something I really should be interested in. Something that I should be invested in as well. But if we're gonna be really honest, I think that Judgment Day does a better job of being darkness personified more than the House of Black. I just don't get the House of Black at all. Um, and this whole thing with Julia and her eye and I guess her poison and or darkness is seeping through, and I'm like, all right, this story is taking way too long. And I understand that there's people out there that like this story, but this is like super slow burn, and it really did feel like they forgot about this storyline. What I would have liked for the Varsity Blondes and House of Black is if this is just going to be a Julia storyline, that Julia would have had like vlogs, would have had, been on podcast episodes where it's all in character and where it basically like, it's like, hey, tell us about, you know, how did the House of Black like poison you? How did the House of Black manage to get the darkness inside of you? Like, I would have liked it if Julia Hart would have had like mini vlogs or just something, you know. Oh, of course, Jersey Devil. Thank you for being here. Enjoy the rest of your day, man. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for your input too. So yeah, like the thing is, I would have liked if Julia would have been on top of the storyline because it just feels like a huge ass disconnect uh for like story and stuff like that. So I think this has been going on for like 6 to 8 months, where in the USB arena, which is here in Long Island, New York City, which next Wednesday they're gonna be there to have Dynamite. um I think they're gonna be at the USB arena or like somewhere else on Long Island. um Malachi Black, who's the leader of House of Black, basically poisoned, gave Julia some darkness, and she's been wearing this eye patch. And I remember when she first had the eye patch on and was part of a BTE segment. Like, it just looks so fucking stupid. It looks so silly where it's like she's bumping into everything now that she has a fucking eye patch and whatnot. They wanted to make light of it. They were just doing a stupid little skit, and I totally get that. But at the same time, it's like it's silly. Come on, like um it's just that there's not enough to push this storyline in because it's more of a Julia storyline. She should do everything in her power to push it. Again, to show a different side of her where she has these vlogs and maybe talking to herself and trying to and you know maybe getting like a split personality, because if Malachi is poisoning you with whatever darkness he has, you should end up getting some fucking paranoia or like some schizophrenia rather than trying to play the fucking emo character, sit on the stairs as if no one fucking, wants to acknowledge you while your teammates Brian Pillman Jr. and Griff Garrison are fighting in the ring. Like, I don't understand that. It's like you're either gonna be there or you're not gonna be there. If you don't want to be there because you think that no one is paying attention to your ass, then don't fucking be there. It's as simple as that. You can stay in the back. You can stay in catering until like you know, they like, until they need you or something. Um anyway, I just don't like it. So I was saying that this is how um you fix this. You fix it by going Hollywood, so to speak. You go Hollywood so that way you can make it into a movie. That's what Malachi likes to do. He likes to have these really high end production type of promos where, again, it feels very overwhelming to have these type of promos in a sense where, like, it doesn't get me interested. It's so fucking flat. And Malachi Black sort of doesn't know, well, doesn't feel like he knows how to really, like, I don't know what's the right word I'm looking for, or the right idea I'm looking for, but it's just his style of doing the promos for the House of Black never really, catched on to me. Just because they were just too short, and it's like, feels like it speaks in riddles and tongues, and I'm like, I need something more, man. Like, I'd rather listen to Edge with Damian Priest than listen to Malachi Black. And it's not a like an intelligent level thing, it's just more like, who presents the information better? Who presents their team better? Edge's team, which is Judgment Day, and that's Edge and Damian Priest, they present Judgment Day better, even though you know that all their promos, maybe Vince gives Edge, some leeway, but regardless, you know that WWE is scripted. But the way that Edge can take the scripted promos, make it his own, and get you invested is what I like. When Malachi Black does his promos about the House of Black, I'm here like, all right, I just don't get it. Nothing interests me. Like, it really doesn't. But I think that this whole storyline that's been happening for like 6 to 8 months should have at least had some type of duality that Julia is struggling with. And then it gets, to a point where it gets bad. And this is where the varsity blondes come in because they want to help her, but they don't know how to help her. Um, and basically, like, have this big climax of a story that comes to a head that probably should have came to a head yesterday, but it might come to a head next week. But apparently, like, on Dynamite, Julia uh, was given the chair, but she didn't want to hit Garrison with it. Um, and uh, Malachi Black didn't like that, so he took the eye patch off of Julia. And I was saying that, does that make her good again? Like, does the evil come out? Um, does the evil come out? So yeah, like, I don't know, man. It's just really, 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 really weird. Um, anyway, so this is how I would fix the House of Black for them to go fucking, horror and whatnot. Which I already alluded to, that, like, they should do vlogs and stuff like that. You know, First of all, Julia should have explained that she feels off. She feels different. She sees the world in a different way than, the ordinary person, because she has the eye patch, and that she basically, like, has these powers, I guess, that Malachi Black gave to her. Um I would think of it like a really big movie set for this. Malachi Black and, his two people can do the same thing that they've always done. I just think they should have tapped in to the vlogging side of things, keeping people up to date. Malachi Black requesting specific podcast episodes where it's all in character. Because sometimes, podcasters out there, like, even though you're doing interviews, maybe sometimes you can do like an in character interview where, you're pushing the storyline, because it doesn't seem like AEW wants to push anything unless, like, you tell Tony Khan, yeah, we're pushing this. um you know what made this feel like it was forgotten? It's because even though I know that the Varsity Blondes are wrestling on Dark, because I see the highlights and stuff, it just felt like there was a time period of the Varsity Blondes not being in attendance at AEW, and nothing was really said. Nobody talks about the Julia storyline. And then now that we had the Varsity Blondes calling out the House of Black yesterday, it feels like everybody is an expert in this story. And it's like, you're not really like, I don't know how you can become an expert when there's like a big chunk of story missing. Like, I don't understand that. I really don't. So yeah, I would just say that um I would just say that they can still um you know do this. They can still um fix it, but I am so over it. Um I am so over. Okay, hold on. I am so over this storyline. It's like it doesn't really move. I need it to move, but it really doesn't move. Um, and then I don't know what we really got yesterday. Um, I don't know how far we got yesterday by having Malachi Black take off the eye patch of Julia and stuff like that. Okay, so I don't really know what else to say about Varsity Blondes calling out the House of Black. I really do hope that this story gets wrapped up, because it really feels like it wasn't taken care of the way that it should be. Um, and by the way, Buddy Murphy is or Buddy Matthews is doing better in other promotions than AEW, so that's always a plus. Um, anyway, uh, what's another big issue that I had with this? I will talk about the Blackpool Combat Club, because that seems to be everyone's favorite, like, darling trios team, and I just can't seem to find myself to like it. Um I understand the nature of the team. I understand the reason why it was created. You know, I feel like the only cool thing about it is William Regal. Okay? I saw the promo package of William Regal basically explaining what the Blackpool Combat Club is, and you could definitely feel the chills and the vibe that it gives off. And that's all thanks to William Regal. The people that they have in it. So, like Daniel Bryan and John Moxley and Wheeler Yuta, I just can't fully embrace the trio. I just really can't. And no, no promoter in the world is going to tell me that a star is born, meaning Wheeler Yuta a star is born. No one tells me what wrestler is a star. The wrestler has to really be good at their job in everything that is considered on how to be a wrestler like a star, okay? The Rock is a self-made star. Austin is a self-made star. Like, those guys are self-made stars. Um Wheeler Yuta is not there yet. And people are probably gonna get upset at me, but that's totally okay. I really don't mind. If you do get upset, either drop it in the chat or leave me a message on Twitter at Marie_Shadows, and we'll go from there. But I don't see Wheeler Yuta as a star just yet. I am happy that Wheeler Yuta is going to be in Best of the Super Juniors in New Japan Pro Wrestling, which again starts on May 15th. And I guess he's gonna bring the Ring of Honor Pure Championship over there just to showcase it, so that the Japanese fans know that there's Ring of Honor. But now I get to really sit down and look at Wheeler Yuta as a wrestler and maybe fall in love with his wrestling style, become a fan of his. Because right now I'm just watching him, but then people tend to hype him up, and when people hype up somebody that's like still young in the business, that's not a good sign. So at least with Best of the Super Juniors, everything will be stripped down to its fundamentals. There won't be any funny business. Well, unless you're a show of House of Torture. But technically, there will not be no funny business, and I get to really see the bare bones of all the hard work and years that Wheeler Yuta has put into the business, and I can finally give a proper assessment. So look out for those reviews when we get into Best of the Super Juniors. So yeah, that's one thing. Um, Moxley is always going to be a hit or miss for me. This guy has went to rehab, got better, but instead of using alcohol or any type of drugs to, calm his inner demons, he's blading a lot more when he doesn't need to blade, and just teaching that um blading is like, okay in matches. And it's like, no, dude, um blading all the time is not okay in matches, and that shouldn't really be a thing just to enhance the story of it. But then again, he's always a hit or miss for me. He does the WWE hot tag shit and stuff like that. I'm just like, I just can't with you, Moxley. And by the way, I'm still like, I'm still a little upset at Moxley for him trying to call out Tanahashi, trying to be like, he runs New Japan and New Japan Strong, and it's like, bro, sit the fuck down. You've been in AEW ever since you tried to call out Tanahashi, and you didn't even do anything after your match where you could have said, "Hey Tana, I hope you were watching, because this is gonna be the end result when I get to you at Capital Collision May 14th in Philadelphia, and I'm gonna come and take that IWGP United States Championship title." No, didn't do anything like that. So I really do need Moxley to stop talking shit and like only talk his shit when he could back it up. Um, May 14th is gonna be a New Japan Strong taping where we're gonna have a fatal four way of Tanahashi, who is our IWGP United States Champion, taking on Will Ospreay, taking on Moxley, taking on I should know the fourth one. Um, Oh my god, it's a fatal four way. I should know the fourth one. Why is it not coming to me? I was really talking my shit too. Um, man, who also is jumping in line? Is it May 15th or May 14th? So they're doing a double highlight for Philly. Oh, Juice Robinson. I don't know why I couldn't remember Juice Robinson. All right, so let me say that again. We are heading to NJPW Strong Capital Collision where it's going to be the IWGP United States Heavyweight Champion Tanahashi taking on John Moxley, taking on Will Ospreay, taking on Juice Robinson. And, again, if you're not going to talk your shit until we get there to build up the match, then, like, sit down, bro. It's okay. Sit down. Um, what I would like to say about Daniel Bryan is that I used to be a huge fan of Daniel Bryan. I know he is one of the best technical wrestlers in the world. And as you guys know, I love technical wrestlers more than I love the flippy guys that have no fucking psychology added on to their flips. I respect Danielson. I just really have. I fell out of being a fan, which is gonna sound stupid, when he decided to date and marry one of the Bella twins. And then WWE had him do the freaking Yes movement, and I just really can't anymore. I'm just like it doesn't really. I don't really get excited to see Danielson. I know other people like the Blackpool Combat Club, but I just can't get behind them. I can get behind William Regal because I could believe anything this guy tells me, but the three of them, no, not really. Like, I think that even though John Moxley has all this passion, it still feels like, bro, are you like faking some of this shit? Are you not faking some of this shit? Do you have to, get so pumped up and animated by like the hot tag by just doing clotheslines, get the guy out, decide to throw the guy over the table, and then nothing really happens, and then throw him back over the table. Like, man, it's such a hit or miss. And then all three of them, their finisher basically is attacking the other guys with elbows, and I'm like, how is that exciting? How the fuck is that exciting? Like, I don't get it. I really don't. And then the bad part is that there's no other trios team that can match the Blackpool Combat Club as violent as they are. That's why, the tag team division doesn't really work really well because the matchups are so odd. One team is not matching the energy of the other team. And the match that I'm talking about is that the Butcher and the Blade teaming up with Angelico because they got to find something for Angelico to do now that Jack Evans is no longer with the company. Um, taking on the Blackpool Combat Club, I can see that the Butcher and the Blade can match the ferocity and the violence of the Blackpool Combat Club minus Wheeler Yuta. It for me, Wheeler Yuta doesn't scream violent person, so I don't really get that yet. Wheeler Yuta to me screams out wrestler. Okay, he screams out wrestler. He doesn't scream out violent. Daniel Bryan and John Moxley scream out semi-violent, but Butcher and Blade scream out violent. If that makes sense. So I can understand that the Butcher and the Blade can take on the Blackpool Combat Club, but to have Angelico in there really doesn't like the matchup, the energy doesn't like really flow right when it comes to their matchups of, I should say, their verses of like teams. Ronan in the chat says John Moxley is animated to. What's your point? What? My point is that John Moxley will always be a hit or miss for me. When he's like super fucking animated and shit, it's just like, bro, just calm down a little bit. It's okay. It's all right. Your opponent is not going anywhere. This is how like accidents happen. This is how like choreographies get fucked up because John Moxley is going at like 1,000 miles per hour while like the wrestler, meaning when he did the hot tag, he went against the Blade. The Blade is going at normal speed, which is like 100, and then you have John Moxley here, coming out really hot and all this kind of shit and going like 1,000 miles per hour. Um, so yeah. Um, anyway, so yeah, I just can't really get behind the Blackpool Combat Club. And anyway, if Moxie really wanted to make a statement about, feeling some type of way that Tanahashi was avoiding him. Why doesn't he go the route of heading over to New Japan Strong or creating an angle with any of the rest of the Hantai guys to do something about it? Because I mean, let's see, who's friends with Tanahashi? We have, I mean, Rocky is friends with Okada. Rocky is part of Chaos, but he could still go after Rocky because Rocky is like the main point, the main person that you know can get things done. So why not go after Rocky if you really felt some type of way? All right. Um, I really do not care about the grudge match of Chris Jericho versus Santana. I really think that it's time for Jericho to um, just help out in the back. I really don't think that we need more Jericho on our TV. And, it's really sad that Pride and Powerful, Santana, and Ortiz still have not held those AEW Tag Team Championships. It feels like almost all the championships are just revolving around the same people, just because of the ranking system, and it gets a little wacky from there. The only two that I can say that hasn't really felt like this is the women's championship title. Give me a second. The women's championship title and the TBS title. Um, Even though I don't know how much longer they're gonna keep it on Jade, but yeah. Um, I saw some of the highlights of Deonna Purrazzo versus Mercedes Martinez, and while I love both women, it felt like they got the wrong end of the deal because the crowd was dead for some reason for the main event. And this was just Deanna dropping the belt to Mercedes. Because even though Mercedes was the interim Ring of Honor's champion, um, it was a given. It wasn't like, the build up to it and stuff like that. Um, the only build up this had was Deanna going on podcast shows and basically talking her shit about that she's a real Ring of Honor Women's Champion, and that, she basically, like, would show up anytime, anywhere, to face people. Um, so it's kind of sad where it's really kind of sad that we had the match. There wasn't really much reaction to it. It looked like it started out slow, like it's supposed to be like a technical wrestling match, but like Deanna had like really good sort of fast paced matches where they still had like technical stuff. You don't always have to start out slow when you want a technical match. Like there's ways to work around it. And then, people were complaining that it was gonna be 10 minutes. And that's only because of like where they're placed, and then if you look at the time it's like, oh, it's 10 minutes till 10. That AEW has a 2-hour time slot. So there's I know it feels like on Twitter that every time people complain about something, it always feels like, well, what do you really want if you're always going to complain? So what I would have liked is that they would have gave a 60-minute time limit to Deanna and Mercedes, as what you're supposed to do with championship matches. You're supposed to at least give like a 60-minute time limit, if not 30 at most, right? but you eliminate matches that you don't fucking need. You don't need a grudge match between Jericho and Santana. That could be on Rampage. You could put one of the men qualifying matches over on Rampage. You could have put Wardlow versus Morrissey over on Rampage. If that was only going to be like maybe a 3 minute match tops, and you dedicate your main event, your Ring of Honor main event on AEW Dynamite to a 30 minute, maybe 60 minute match. And then that would have like probably quieted us down. The other thing too is, I know that during AW Dynamite they showed the video package of William Regal talking about the Blackpool Combat Club, which is great. It's great. It's a start. However, they should have been doing that for like almost everything on AEW Dynamite. And if they really want help on how to space out their segments, you take cues from Impact. Because Impact has been doing it properly and they know how to space everything now. They know what to, like, who to put on the show rather than trying to just squish everything in like 2 hours. That's what AEW does. AEW doesn't give you time to breathe. AEW doesn't give you time to digest when it comes to their shows, which is a really bad thing. So yeah, I wish that they would have thought it out better for the women. I wish they would have did it a little bit better, but they really didn't do that. But like I said, this was for Deanna to drop the belt to Mercedes Martinez. Um, if anything, if I was Deanna, I probably would have dragged this out until Double or Nothing to really get that 60-minute match in at Double or Nothing. So that way it could be a chase for it. You know, where Deanna could have turned heel on Tony Khan because Tony Khan wants to play a character so bad in professional wrestling. So why not, right? Why not tell your boss that, that you don't get to make the rules. Like, she's a champion. She has more say. She has more pull. Like, pull a Ric Flair back in the day during NWA days. And when he was going around the territory. Like, if you are the champion, you should get as much pull and probably abuse your power as much as you can to get what you want because you are the true champion. Imagine if they had these series of matches, both Liana and Mercedes, having these series of matches where the the payoff is at Double or Nothing. Then we could sit here and talk about AEW is starting to revitalize, the women's division and giving us this and that and creating story and doing that. It might be a little bit difficult because Deanna has other obligations to fulfill. I'm not sure if Mercedes does too, but imagine that chase, that back and forth between, two women athletes, two athletes in general, until we get to Double or Nothing to crown the true Ring of Honor champion. But no, does Tony Khan think that far ahead? No. And then we have AEW fans who are like, oh my God, this is so amazing. No, you're missing the big picture. Let stories have stories. Let stories breathe. Let stories be digestible to you guys. So that way, when the payoff happens, you're like, oh my God, that was really great. Let's talk about it. Let's have a debate about it. Let me tell you the story from point A to point B. Let me break it down for you. But I really can't do that because we had one match, and that was it. And Mercedes Martinez had Deanna Perrazzo tap to a Dragon Sleeper, which is still a very hardcore move, but we had a one match, one and done. And as a quick reminder, ads start in 4 minutes, and if you do not want your experience to be interrupted during the Square Circle podcast, by all means, send me your Twitch primes and or gifted subs, so that way you do not get an ad and miss the lovely conversation that we are having. Okay. Um. Let's see. We can talk about the Owen Hart tournament, which for those of you that are going to be listening to this on the VOD, like, you know, um, I might get hate for it, but I don't really care. All right, I managed to get the male brackets. I don't know if they put up the female brackets, but I managed to get that. So yeah. Anyway, um, all right. Just another quick reminder: ads start in 1 minute. All right. So the first thing that I'm going to say might really, really, really piss people off. Um, Especially when they listen to this on the VOD, or if you are lurking, this is probably gonna piss you off. I do not like the way that the Owen Hart tournament has been handled. I think now that it's just putting Owen's name putting Owen's name on a tournament, basically like to get money. Even though they said that the money does not go to AEW, the money goes to the Owen Hart Foundation and it goes to Martha, and they basically like do whatever they need to do with, the money, which is great, awesome. It's very caring. It's a very great cause and stuff like that. But the way that it has been structured, where there's no thinking, where there's no planning, we could have got the brackets earlier rather than getting. I'm guessing it's a quarterfinals of the Owen Hart um tournament for both the men and the women, and there's no variety in a sense for this tournament. Sure, we have very outstanding, um, competitors like Ray Phoenix, Kyle O'Reilly, Samoa Joe, and then this Joker where it could be anybody is definitely not going to be Bret Hart. Okay, it's not going to be Bret Hart. Jeff Hardy, Darby Allin, Adam Cole, and Dax Hardwood. Like, for me, a tournament has to be very hardy. It has to have the brackets, so that way we can fantasy book about it. We could talk about it. We can, tell each other why this wrestler could go over this wrestler and this wrestler, may not make it, or you think that this wrestler goes only but so far because the other wrestlers don't really have enough star power to beat them. Like when I covered the New Japan Cup, that was very fun. That was like really really fun. But Japan gives us the brackets early on. We talk about the brackets. I explained to you guys why Tama should have won the New Japan Cup, and why in story it would have been cool to have um, Tama versus Fale. That would have been like super super dense story, and I explained why it would be a good idea. In this Owen Hart tournament, I can't explain shit to you guys, so I don't understand how AEW geared podcasts out there can like really dive deep into the world of AEW, into the stories, into the wrestlers, if we're not given the proper information and everybody just goes along and accepts anything that Tony Khan gives them without question. When you don't question anymore, how are you going to learn? When you question, you grow. When you question, you learn more, you gain more knowledge, and you have a better outlook and a better narrative to be like, all right, I understand your points. However, these are my counterpoints, these are my perspectives, and this is how, I see the tournament and why they make the decisions that they make. So I just don't understand if like you're still in a bubble that goes around and keeps the same tribalism feelings in your bubble. How are you gonna grow as a podcaster? How are you gonna grow as a content creator if you're not asking the hard questions, if you're not asking the right questions and pressuring, the powers that be, the management. We got this bracket of Ray Phoenix versus Cal O'Reilly. All right, cool. Did they have any type of vignettes or video packages where they explain what Owen Hart means to them and like where they were when Owen Hart was like already wrestling, like where they were in their lives? No. I don't know why Samoa Joe is in here. I don't know what kind of ties he has to like, Owen Hart or like the Hart family or anything like that. Jeff Hardy wrestled Owen Hart when Jeff Hardy was still a teenager, so that's something. That's something, but like, there's no video package of like what this means to Jeff. Darby, Darby gets thrown into anything. I don't even know if he has anything sentimental towards Owen Hart. Adam Cole is a Shawn Michaels guy, so why the fuck is he in here? Dax Harwood, we all know that he loves Bret Hart. He loves the whole Hart Foundation. And I think that sometimes instead of paying tribute to the way that Dax does, to the way that CM Punk does, like start doing original shit. Like you don't always have to pay tribute to somebody, and there's a way to do it where it doesn't feel kind of cringy. So, I just don't know, man. This was not um really well thought out. Most of the stuff in AEW is not thought out. Everything is I'm gonna throw shit to the wall and that's about it. We're gonna see what happens, and of course fans are gonna be like, "Oh my god, this is great!" But now I'm starting to see the flip side of things, where people are like, "Yo, this is not a really good episode. Yo, what is happening here? Why is this happening? Why is that happening?" They're starting to question it, but the loyal AEW fans will definitely come on your tweets and talk some fucking nonsense to you and think that they know more, and it's like, no, you don't. Like, you can sit down. It's okay. Um, so yeah, I just don't like how the Owen Hart tournament has been handled for both the men and the women. And I really don't want to bring this up, but um, there's really no black athletes in this. There really isn't. Um, and this is what we mean when we say that the black athletes should have the same opportunities as everyone else. Ray Phoenix does not count in this conversation because he is Mexican, so at least that's something there. But everyone else, like you know there's no black athletes here, and there's no black athletes over in the women's side. Um and like I said, this is basically what we mean when we say that the black athletes don't really necessarily get the same opportunities as their colleagues sometimes. It would have been nice to have like Will Hobbs in here. Like, why is Will Hobbs not in here? Um, we could have Swerve in here. We could have Jay Lethal in here. We can have um, I don't know, Jonathan Gresham in here because Jonathan Gresham is a very technically sound wrestler. Um, it just doesn't make any sense why there's no black athletes in the Owen Hart tournament. It makes no sense when Owen Hart is the definition and the personification of technical wrestling, the same way that Bret Hart is. And it's just really sad that I got to be here and be like, hey, well, we have these guys here. I don't know what their connection is. I honestly do not know um, who the Joker is gonna be. Um, I don't have any idea uh what the Joker like who's gonna debut as the Joker. Um, and I really think it's stupid to have a Joker to come in at this point in time in the tournament when the tournament should have really been thought out, where the tournament should have really been like, all right, we're doing this, this, and this. We're not going to have some random ass fucking matches. Like, I still think that it's wrong to had Adam Cole versus Ishii. And again, AEW fans are so fucking weird. They don't like understanding the bigger picture of what was wrong with Ishii versus Adam Cole. In a perfect world, Ishii can beat Adam Cole. In a perfect world, Adam Cole cannot beat Ishii. Ishii, you don't fuck with Ishii. The same way that you don't fuck with Suzuki, you don't fuck with Ishii either. Um, and Ishii doesn't really get a really good spotlight when it comes to AEW. And then they're still doing the freaking New Japan, and then they are still doing the New Japan. Um, damn, what's the word? Bits where it's Ishii versus uh Jay White. Where Jay White still messes with Ishii, and they're still doing that, and I'm like, guys, get over it. Like, you guys gotta stop that. And I only say that because I have followed their feud and talked about their feud, and I'm a little tired of talking about their feud. Anyway, so um, someone said, "Why are you questioning? Uh, what does it even mean for Ishii to like fight Adam Cole?" Because I was like, "What is it really gonna do? Like announcing Ishii versus Adam Cole just because it's supposed to." Get us hyped for the Forbidden Door pay per view, but we all know that Ishii loses. Like, I swear, sometimes male wrestling fans should sit down when women are talking. Um just because like I know what I know what I talk about. I know the reasons why I ask certain questions, and if you don't know the answers to certain questions, it's okay. You could just tell me I don't know. That's okay then, trying to make yourself look like an ass and then trying to assume things. Um But yeah, like because you're advertising for the Forbidden Door, um, that you're gonna have Adam Cole versus Ishii. That doesn't do anything. We know Ishii's not gonna like win. We know Adam Cole is gonna win because we know Ishii has, you know, um, Impact tapings to do, and then maybe his Indies, and then going back to Japan. Um, so yeah. Um, I just don't think that this tournament is worth it, that this tournament holds any type of value to it. Just because, it doesn't feel like a tournament for or an Owen Hart. It feels like a tournament with just his name on it. And that's it. So yeah, I know there's probably like um some other stuff I want to talk about it too, but that's mainly like the main point is that it doesn't feel like as big as it should be. It should definitely feel big, like regardless of the death of Owen Hart and how that situation was handled and how Martha feels and stuff like that. Like regardless of that, it should feel bigger than what it is. It should feel like everyone is coming together to celebrate and honor a life, and this should be the only time where Martha should put aside her fucking differences and have Bret Hart there, and Bret Hart be part of this. And I would have Bret Hart on the committee. Like I would have told Martha, like, hey, that's his fucking brother. No matter what happens, like, that hurt him the most than like hurting anyone else in a way, if that makes sense. Um that's like his baby brother. Like you can't be like, oh no, you know that hurt you more than the actual blood relative that had to grow up with him in a house. you know there's a difference of love, there's a difference of behavior when, like, you grow up with your sibling versus your sibling going off and marrying somebody that comes into the family. Like I would have told Martha to put aside her differences and have Bret Hart come in and have him work on this special project, because this is a special project and this should be something special for AEW and for the fans to celebrate. But again, like the fans can be somewhat toxic, and the fans will just take whatever Tony Khan gives them rather than questioning it or just wanting it to be um, special. This tournament doesn't feel special. This tournament just feels like it was just thrown together for the sake of throwing it together. And if Tony Khan really did care about the history of professional wrestling, he would have given us brackets. He would have had matches that made sense. We would have, well, AEW, I can't say we because I'm not part of the team. AEW would have basically like uh, did a lot of vignettes, a lot of promos with the people in the tournament. Already have those packages ready to go, and they could have been on a special episode of the Road to, and then talk about it throughout the week. But Tony Khan doesn't think big. Tony Khan thinks small and thinks what's in the now. He really doesn't think long term unless it's like the wrestler thinking long term for their long term stories. But in general, like it doesn't feel like he thinks about the long term, especially when it came to this Owen Hart tournament. It just felt like, oh, all right, cool, whatever, that type of thing. Um, so yeah, there there's that for the Owen Hart tournament. Again, if you guys do not agree, which I think a lot of people are not going to agree, that's totally fine. You know where to find me at Marie_Shadows if you want to say some shit. We'll see what happens. Um Now let's talk about the Forbidden Door, which is June 26th, and it's sold out. I was not afraid of it not selling out. If that makes any sense, like I never doubted it wasn't gonna sell out. I'm only doubting the matches that's gonna be happening, the booking that's gonna be happening, because I do not trust Tony Khan and his booking. If this yesterday's AEW Dynamite is any indication of that, I really don't trust it. Tony Khan's handling of New Japan Pro wrestlers, Impact wrestlers, and Ring of Honor wrestlers proves that too. Where, I just don't trust it. I really don't. So the Forbidden Door sells out. The Forbidden Door sells out. the United Center, and not one match has been, um, announced. So it got sold out because of the collaboration. However, again, I pose this question to you guys. How many think that the majority of those tickets being sold were scalpers buying the tickets during the pre-sale? Like, I really do think that it was like a majority of that is scalpers, and then we sort of praise the fact that they sell out, which is okay, which is okay, but you also gotta live in a realistic world where, like, any type of convention, any type of like event, would usually have scalpers, and they turn it and they basically, like, resell it for more. So while, yes, we celebrate that the Forbidden Door, come June 26th, has sold out, you know, how many of that are, wrestling fans, and how many of that are scalpers? I just like living in reality for a bit, rather than just assuming and praising, like, oh my god, congratulations. Yes, it is a congratulations type of moment. Um, but other than that, it's like, all right, cool, but what about those scalpers? Because you could go on, like, I don't know, maybe like StubHub, maybe they'll like resell it for a lot more money. eBay, they'll resell it for a lot more money because they know that how big this is, and this changes the wrestling industry for like a little bit. Well, for maybe a little while, it changes the wrestling business. So people know how big it is. People know how important it is. So that's why scalpers are there to buy up most of the tickets and basically like resell them. So yeah, that's the only question that I have. Other than that, like, we should give the ordinary, normal thing of congratulations AEW for selling out the Forbidden Door pay per view. And I really do need Jay White to say that he single handedly sold out the United Center. I do not um want to hear that CM Punk had any like hand in it, because he's been quiet about the Forbidden Door. He's been dodging Kenta. He's been dodging Okada. Like, he hasn't said shit. So this victory lap goes to Jay White. Okay, this victory lap goes to Jay White. It's not gonna go to CM Punk. I don't know. Um, I don't know who listens to Tom McDonald here, but when he did the second diss rap to, oh no, when he did the first diss rap to um, uh, Mac Lethal, there's a line that he says, I'm selling out shows in your town." That's exactly what Jay White is doing. Jay White is selling out venues. Jay White is selling out the United Center in CM Punk's town. Yep, I went there. Um, because, again, let's face it, Jay White is wrestling's number one asset. So it only serves him right to, sell out this one. Um, I just, I almost forgot to talk about Hangman. That's how much of a forgettable champion that he is. Um, so I guess keeping the Forbidden Door thing up. Let's talk about Hangman Adam Page for a second and his AEW reign. I'm gonna ask this very honestly to you guys, and again, you guys can drop your answer in the chat, and or you can find me on Twitter at Marie_Shadows to let me know. Um, Basically, Are you remembering his title reign? Because I am not remembering his title reign. And I will say this though, that because he was out last week, and that's because he caught COVID. Um, that doesn't count. But I mean, in terms of the Hangman discourse, I was gonna say Discord. The Hangman discourse, right? Is basically now people are saying that he is turning heel, and you know what? Hold on. That he's turning heel because um of what he said to CM Punk about wrestling him and stuff like that, right? Cuz at Double or Nothing we get Hangman Adam Page versus uh versus CM Punk at Double or Nothing. And it's like, all right, cool, cuz CM Punk is number one in the rankings, which again makes no fucking sense. But I'm not gonna rack my brain around it. So, um, he says that they're not gonna have this masturbatory uh Bret Hart dedication match when they fight at Double or Nothing. Cool, awesome. That I guess people had took offense to it because it's a jab at Bret Hart, and there's a lot of people who like Bret Hart, and then there's a lot of people who tend to jump on the bandwagon of things, and there's other people that just want to be like super fucking emotional, about things anyway in general. So the thing is that I don't really remember much from Hangman Adam Page. Um, him being a champion, I really don't remember much. I just remember that he faced Daniel Bryan twice. He had Lance Archer in a Texas death match. Um, he faced Adam Cole, and that's it. Um, and I'm just like, there's not much he's doing. He's not carrying himself like a champion. He's not being positioned like a champion. He's just not memorable, and that's something that we all gotta like, one day accept. Especially if he's going to be dropping the belt to CM Punk. Not that I want him to drop the belt to CM Punk because fuck Punk. Um, I just don't think that Punk is for the people anymore. I don't. I still think that he's still playing us, and shit like that. But other than that, like, I don't understand why Hangman doesn't have the fire that he should be, um, having. I just don't understand where it's at. So, uh, the other thing too is that if Hangman was presented more like Roman Reigns, then he'll feel better to be on screen and on TV. But between him showing up on Dynamite, getting overshadowed by everybody, and basically like just um, you know, feeling like he's not part of the show and stuff like that, like it's really bad. Um, and people are definitely going to disagree with me because they love Hangman, and I totally get it. I love Hangman too. I once did, um, but decisions can cause somebody to fall out of love with their favorite wrestler. Um, other than that, like if they would present him more like a Roman Reigns type of strong champion, and that'd be great because it's really sad that we have more buzz about the TNT Championship title than we do the AEW Championship title. And this is where like Tony Khan needs to get like a team and definitely be like, hey, we got to put this in place, we got to put that in place, and like all this kind of shit. I just don't think Hangman is a strong enough champion to continue to carry the company, and you could definitely tell like which guys are like not championship material, and that's okay. Sometimes people need to have their first run with a champion to really see like is this for them. um I just don't think that um in the long run Hangman Adam Page is the right person to have a championship on. Maybe he can try, the TNT Championship title and see where that takes him. But other than that, like, I never really saw Hangman as championship material. I did at one point, but then, his story sort of fell through. Um, Other than that, like, oh, I was gonna say that we wouldn't be having this Hangman turn heel discourse if he was presented like Roman Reigns in a way. Um, yeah, and also at Double or Nothing, I really do want Hangman to keep the title. I really don't want Punk to get it. I really don't. And again, a lot of people on Twitter will be like, especially in the AEW fan base, they always love to rub it in other people's faces about, oh well, look at the guys that they're pushing. They're not all WWE guys, and look what happened here, look what happened there. It's the AEW originals, and it's like, well, who the fuck is going after Hangman right now? An ex WWE wrestler, CM Punk, who fucking, you know, left the business and left us, and he's going for the title. Why isn't any of the AEW pillars going for the title? Why wasn't the next story um was MJF going against Hangman while MJF deals with Wardlow? Like, why couldn't we get that? Why couldn't someone else go after the title? Like, the rankings are a blessing and the rankings are a curse. The rankings also don't make sense. But then again, like I say most of the time that I have a Steiner math degree. So don't talk to me about rankings or math or anything like that. But if you want to talk about books and you want to talk about writing, then I'm your girl. But other than that, like, I just, you know, we have a WWE former WWE wrestler going after an AEW belt. So early in his like fucking. And shit. Yeah. Uh so I have no idea what else to talk about. I think I covered everything that I wanted to talk about for this episode. Um and Yeah, I think I talked about everything. Um, um, yeah, I have nothing else to like really add. Like I said, New Japan Pro Wrestling is just doing little tiny activities. Um, and then uh, May 15th is when we're gonna start Best of the Super Juniors. So stay tuned here. So yeah, you know what? I'm gonna do my outro and relax for the rest of the night. And yeah, um, all right, ladies and gentlemen, that was a fantastic episode of the Square Circle podcast where I broke down almost everything that I wanted to break down for a wrestling review show. So we went over AEW Dynamite. I presented some questions. I basically asked you if you would still be interested in Wardlow if he loses to MJF at Double or Nothing, because winning all the time, there's no stake, there is no um, urgency or anything like that for him to overcome. So again, are you going to be satisfied at the end of Wardlow's story, just in case if he loses? Are you still going to be interested? Are you still going to be motivated to support what's going on? We also talked about the AEW Dynamite as a whole. My take on the Blackpool Combat Club, my take on the House of Black and Julia, my take on the Owen Hart tournament, which I still think that it's his name being plastered on there. It doesn't even feel grand. It doesn't feel like, something amazing. When I talk about New Japan Pro Wrestling and their tournaments, so like the G1, there's prestige to that. The Best of the Super Juniors, there's prestige to that. World Tag League, there's prestige to that. Those tournaments, you want to be in it. I don't know about this one. Like, I wouldn't want to be in this if there's not that much hype behind it, you know? And then we talked about Hangman, that he's a very forgettable champion. I have no way to fix this guy at all unless he wants to hang out with Clark Connors to get some promo work in and like learn how to be a better professional wrestler. For some reason, when it comes to like Virginia and like North and South Carolinas, like you get hit or misses when it comes to professional wrestlers out of that scene, and that's not me trying to be really really bad um or really mean. It's just an observation that needs to be said. And I'm really glad that you guys love my hot takes. I really do. I'm glad that you guys do. So this is, you know, all of my ideas and opinions on professional wrestling. It's okay if you do not agree with any of it or some of it. It's totally all right. But at least, like, if you want to rebuttal anything, make sure to have a good argument. And Vortex, you are most welcome. All right, so that was the rundown of the podcast episode. If you don't want to like listen to the whole thing, but you probably should. And again, ladies and gentlemen, I do these live on twitch.tv/Maria_shadows. And if you do watch this on the VOD, that would be great. Again, this will be on anchor.fm/Square Circle Podcast. And this would also be on youtube.com/Square Circle Podcast. As always, you can follow me at Marie_Shadows and let me know your thoughts. And if you want to take it a step further, you can always support me at my coffee page. Coffee is better than Patreon. It gives you options to spend your hard earned money on how you want to support. So head over to www.ko-fi.com/Marie_Shadows. And of course, now that I am Twitch affiliate, I am the sweetest podcaster you know because I let you know when ads start. If you do not want your experience here at twitch.tv/Marie_Shadows to be interrupted, all you have to do is just send over that Twitch Prime and I'll take care of a free, that's right, a free subscription. Or you can gift yourself or others in the community of twitch.tv/Marie_Shadows some subs in order to not get ads. It is that simple. If you have a Twitch Prime, just use it right here at twitch.tv/Marie_Shadows. So I'm going to play us out on an ad, and then, of course, you have been listening to an episode of the Square Circle Podcast. I am your host, Marie Shadows, and I'll see you guys on the next one.